Top of the morning to you, STOVEMINDERS. Friday, December 18th, 2020. My trees are being pruned. I apologize for the background noise. But what is happening in off-season baseball? Well, the Stove's been fickle this winter. Teams are unsure of how much money they can commit in this peculiar socio-economic climate. So, no big moves to report from this past week, although I'll try to tap into the rumor mill later on in this episode to see what the latest is on some of those top free agents. But despite that lack of star power or name recognition, that does not mean the Stove's been dead cold this past week, especially on the West Coast. The San Francisco Giants have popped up in the rumor mill more than you'd expect for a club outside of the competitive window. So the moves they have made have been much like this fresh new signing of right-handed starting pitcher Anthony DeSclafani. Yeah, that's what I'm leading with. That's what we're opening up with. Anthony DeSclafani. 1 year, $6 million. Okay. So, DeSclafani's been a mid to back end starter for the Cincinnati Reds, and the numbers speak for themselves. An ERA and FIP in the 420s, OPS plus a 99, a más o menos kind of pitcher. DeSclafani will join a Giants rotation led by Johnny Cueto, who was healthy in 2020. He pitched, he did not do very well, and after a rumor that he was going to be pitching in the Dominican Winter League, that ended up not materializing. But he's there. He's making a lot of money. And so is Kevin Gausman, who, if you remember, was given that $18.9 million qualifying offer after what was, to be fair, a very good 2020 campaign for Gausman, and he accepted that. And now San Fran has about $46 million invested in those three pitchers. Again, Johnny Cueto, Kevin Gausman, DeSclafani, about a third of the Giants' payroll. Meaning that, what that means, though, is general manager Farhan Zaidi has some money to blow. And Zaidi recently said that they're going to add another starter. So be on the lookout for. Since we're talking about the Giants' finances, their most expensive player, the heart and soul of the club, is catcher Buster Posey, making $22+ million a year through 2022. Posey did not play in 2020. He opted out. So, the Giants expedited top prospect Joey Bart to the majors, skipping AAA. Bart led their catchers in starts last season, and there's probably room for development for the 24-year-old former second overall draft pick. He didn't exactly take the league by storm. But Posey, he's getting kind of old. Yeah, he doesn't hit like he used to. So, the Giants have re-signed backup catcher Chadwick Tromp, T-R-O-M-P, Trump, after non-tendering him a couple weeks ago. So I set up this entire segment just to mention this guy. Why? He's from Aruba, and his last name is like a Spanish speaker saying Trump. I thought this is entertainment right here. Anyway, speaking of re-signings and speaking of catchers, Mike Zunino is going back to Tampa Bay on a 1-year deal with $3 million guaranteed. And his contract has an escalator. I love this term. So depending on games played, his 2022 option will increase in value. It's worth up to $7 million depending on how many games he does play, or automatically if Zunino gets traded. Now, Zunino wasn't exactly a good hitter in Seattle, but since joining the Rays before the 2019 season, he's gotten worse. He's hit 161 with an OPS under 600 over the past 2 seasons. You know what that means? He's a catcher's catcher. That's why they're bringing him back. Zunino commands respect for his game and pitcher management. There's a worrying trend in his framing stats since becoming a Devil Ray, but we can brush that aside. It's one of those baseball things, those intangibles. And with the amount of different pitchers that the Rays do deploy, having a catcher who's familiar with all these different guys, who's seasoned and who knows how to, talk to these dudes on the mound, call the right pitches and all that stuff, and see the field, see what's going on, that's all pretty valuable. And I'd say the Rays, maybe not on a discount, but $3 million a year, affordable for a catcher that's just, as I said, a catcher's catcher, someone who knows the game and can make sure the game doesn't get out of hand. So, there's another catcher off the market. Zunino's gone, Tromp is gone, McCann is gone. What's going to happen with Realmuto? Who knows? But let's stay on the Gulf Coast for a second, because the Rays have also signed right-handed starting pitcher Michael Wacha, also to a one-year deal worth $3 million. Hard to believe Wacha is only 29 years old, with 8 big league seasons under his belt, and at just $3 million a year. That speaks to the poorness of his 2020 campaign. But even with that forgettable stint with the Mets, Wacha has put together a respectable resume. Career ERA and FIP even at 4.01, and OPS plus right on the dot 100. Call it average, mid-rotation starter. Wacha has not been consistent to that end. He has dealt with knee and shoulder injuries recurrently. That's hindered him recently. He's also a former All-Star, though you'd have to skip back to 2018 to find a quality season. And despite how bad he looked in 2020, Wacha actually posted career highs in strikeouts through 9, strikeout to walk ratio, and out of the zone chase rate over 34%. Plus his best swinging strike rate since his rookie season. So something was going well for Wacha. There's a silver lining here. And at a low cost, hey, that's exactly the type of move the Rays would make. Low risk, high reward. Yeah, Wacha's a downgrade from Charlie Morton, now on the Atlanta Braves, although he could also bounce back. As I said, Wacha's a number 3 or 4 starter. But with these Rays, I don't think they'll necessarily add another piece to the rotation. Why? They love their openers, they also got some good, young, startable arms, like Josh Fleming, Ryan Yarbrough, and top 100 prospect Shane McClanahan, who made his big league debut this past postseason. So, good to see the Rays getting active. They usually make some cool little moves, and so do the Seattle Mariners, who have come out of the woodwork with a couple of low-key pitching additions. They have traded for right-handed reliever Rafael Montero, while the Texas Rangers will receive Seattle's number 24 prospect, right-hander Jose Coronel, and a player to be named later. Well, Montero has been gracious the last couple years, a whip below 1, an ERA and FIP in the 3 range, and he was 8 for 8 in save situations last season with the Rangers. Bet you didn't hear about that. I don't know what was going down in Arlington, but this Rafael Montero kid, he was throwing the ball well. Plus, the M's are not done. No, right-handed pitcher Chris Flexen. 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 Hell yeah. 2 years, $4.25 million guaranteed. Flexen is an Asian renovation. This is just coined this. It's when North American players who have, for whatever reason, failed in either in the major leagues or even to get to the major leagues, have gone to Asia to reinvent their careers and then tried to parlay their success over in Korea or Japan or Taiwan into a brand new contract in hopes of getting back into the bigs. Well, Flexen went to Korea after walking more batters than he struck out over 68 sorry innings with the Mets. But he pitched well in the hitter-friendly KBO. And if you want to look at a comparison, Brewers reliever Josh Lindblom took the same path last winter. He did all right in his first year back from Korea, so we'll see what fortunes befall Mr. Flexen. As for the Mariners, because Flexen is a starter. I don't think I mentioned that. The Mariners should be happy with what they have at the top. Marco Gonzalez and Justice Sheffield, they've pitched well lately, although going down the rotation, Yusei Kikuchi, who they signed out of Japan, has been a disgrace. And the jury's on lunch regarding former top prospect Justin Dunn. The other guy to Kalanick in that Cano DS to the Mets trade, he's pitched for the Mariners at the major league level. Hasn't done that well. So Flexen will probably fall somewhere in the middle of the pack. And with the value that Montero has provided recently, these are good moves for Jerry Dipoto and company. And just to add on Montero, well, first of all, the Mariners' bullpen was dog shit last season, so they needed somebody. He just turned 30, but he is controllable for 2 more seasons, and he's projected to earn somewhere between $1.4 and $2.5 million in arbitration, so that should be palatable for Seattle. And the prospect that the Rangers are getting, as I said, number 24 in the Mariners farm system, Corniel, so he's only 17 years old. It was an international signing out of the Dominican. So Mariners doing stuff, and the Texas Rangers have been very active as well. And yeah, that's about it for the deals that have gone down. Yes, I mean the Cubs have added some minor league pitchers. Yeah, I don't even care. Let's see how these guys pitch. Let's talk about what's going on with the big names that everybody cares about. Well. Trevor Bauer. What's going on with Bowie? Okay, he's vlogging. That's what's going on. Well, I mean, a lot of teams are on them, of course, including the fucking San Francisco Giants. They really have been mentioned with seemingly everybody. Oddly enough, if they can get him on a multi-year deal, that would make a lot of sense. But if Bauer is still doing that whole, I'm only going to sign 1-year contracts situation, I don't think he's going to be. I don't think he's going to be going to the Giants. The New York Mets, they're of course the darling of the ball here. They're the guys with all the fucking money trying to get the best players available. They've kind of moved past Realmuto and to get McCann. So now their top 2 targets are reportedly Bauer and George Springer. Depending on where those 2 guys sign, they may have to alter their plans, but we shall see. The Padres are in on Bauer. So are the Blue Jays. And as far as a potential reunion with the Cincinnati Reds, their general manager Nick Krall recently, this is 3 weeks ago, said they haven't really had substantial conversations to this point. So if you're wondering about a potentially Bauer staying in Cincy, I don't think that's going to happen. As for JT Realmuto, who was watching other less expensive catchers signing deals here and there, have had some early discussions with the Washington Nationals. Could be interesting. They still have Young Gomes, but that would definitely be a huge upgrade. And let's move on to the outfield. What the fucking hell is George Springer up to? We were probably wondering, why haven't the Astros been mentioned all that much regarding Springer and Brantley? Well, both of those guys are going to command a lot of money, first of all, and you got to consider the fact that they got all these other guys like Alex Bregman and Jose Altuve and Carlos Correa that they're going to have to pay or are already paying, plus the Zach Greinke contract they picked up. Oh, and also Justin Verlander. But I'd also like to stir the pot a little bit, because when that whole cheating scandal broke, you heard a lot from those infielders, Bregman, Correa, and Altuve. Those were the guys who decided to step up and become the face of the Astros in the midst of the scandal and publicly apologize for them. And you didn't hear much out of Springer or Brantley. And I understand with Michael Brantley, he came over from Cleveland, but Springer's been a career Astro. So I don't know if this is a case of these 2 guys are themselves not interested in staying in Houston. They just want out of that mess. I mean, granted, that's a competitive team, Very good club, good players, but maybe they just don't want to deal with that whole circus. Maybe they just want to move on. Or maybe they're just asking for too much money. Springer, I think, definitely is going to be looking at 9 figures for him. Brantley, depends more on the length of the deal. He's a little older and a little more health conscious. But the Houston Astros have said that they're looking into bringing those guys back, of course. Why wouldn't they be? But they got to consider their own money. As for the machine, DJ LeMahieu, I think I mentioned this in a previous episode. The Yankees are trying hard to bring him back, though they're apart as far as money goes. Yeah, I haven't heard a ton of, positive rumors about a lot of teams being in on certain players or anything like that. It's a slow-moving market. It sucks, doesn't it? Well, that's baseball for you. Gotta have a little bit of patience. I'm going to continue to sit here patiently, minding that stove. Maybe something will pop off this weekend. Who knows? I just wanted to, get this episode in because there were a number of low-key moves that did go down, and as sometimes happens, one big move will happen and then a secondary move will happen because a team that was pursuing that high-level free agent is like, shit, this guy's gone. Now we have to compensate, get our plan B going, and then I gotta talk about all that on top of all your Chris Flexens and your Wachas and your DeSclafani. Hey, yeah. Hey, keep looking up. You never know when the clouds will part and the sun will peek through and then go right back down at 4 o'clock. Jesus Christ. Longest nights of the year coming up. Winter solstice just around the corner. Enjoy.